alliances are forged.
Mortal Kombat!
Mortal Kombat! Who will you trust? Mortal Kombat! No law. Mortal Kombat!
Mortal Kombat! Mortal Kombat!
Mortal Kombat! Who will you trust? Mortal Kombat! No law. Mortal Kombat!
Mortal Kombat!
Netherrealm Studios and WB Games have recently released their latest game to market, and there's some backlash over the studio and publisher's deceptive marketing, which would include things like having playable characters that were removed from the base game and made paid DLC, or gameplay videos for one version of the game that showcased gameplay footage from a separate, superior platform instead of the platform the video claims the game is being played on. The usual stuff. However, with this video, I'm not going to dive into all of that, but rather I'm going to focus on the game itself. Like always, coming at this from a neutral stance and forming a verdict based on the facts. Over the past weekend, I've spent the majority of my free time with Netherrealm's latest entry in the Mortal Kombat franchise. For 37 hours at the time of this upload, I've played Mortal Kombat 1, which includes extended practice sessions at the beginning, around 5 hours of the story mode, an additional dozen hours playing online, mainly almost exclusively ranked matches, and over a dozen more hours playing Invasions, which is the mode I went into last. I've played as most of the characters on the roster, with a few lingering characters I've yet to try. I also have all but 6 of the 50 achievements that are in the game, and I got all of the multiplayer related achievements rather quickly. As of right now, I've put more than enough hours into the game to form a final verdict on the product, and I must say, this is one of the most rushed games I've seen this year, if not the most rushed game I've seen this year. This game gives Starfield a run for its money. That's how bad it is. Mortal Kombat 1 isn't very good for a few critical reasons, but I'll begin with this. When this game was announced months ago, and gameplay was shown for the first time, I made a statement saying that this game was basically Mortal Kombat 11.5. As it turns out, I was close. It's more like Mortal Kombat 11.2. The .5 would suggest that it's an overall improvement over the former game, which, by the way, I've played hundreds of hours of Mortal Kombat 11 on 2 separate platforms, PS4 and PC, having completed the achievement list for both platforms, and having gone through multiple sessions of Combat League online. Hundreds of matches. Number 160-something on the leaderboards worldwide. Mortal Kombat 11 is a game that I know in and out, so when if asked whether or not Mortal Kombat 1 is better than 11, my response would be exactly this. This game is just as bad as Mortal Kombat 11 is, and it only makes improvements in 2 areas. The first improvement is the general fighting system is far improved over Mortal Kombat 11. Gone are the terrible crushing blows from the last game. Gone are the limited combos. Gone are the instant and full-screen fatal blow startup animations. Gone is the awful D1 throw spam bullshit from the last game. Gone are most of the teleport spam characters, although some of them still persist in this game. The emphasis on zoning isn't as strong in this game as it was in the last one. Combo potential has increased drastically in this game. Fatal blows now have freeze animations similar to Injustice 2 for startup animations. Throws aren't as spam happy in this game as they were in the last one. It feels like there's more of an emphasis on skill rather than the game being solely catered to a casual audience, but this is not to be taken lightly. The game is still catered to a casual audience because that's what Mortal Kombat in general has become, a mainstream multimedia franchise. There's no way that the most popular and best-selling fighting game franchise in the world will ever be purely made for a hardcore audience. That's what happens when you have a property that is a household name. While there are major improvements to the fighting system, there's also a list of major weaknesses too. The main ones that I've noticed is that the augments or meter burns to special moves are nowhere near as responsive in this game as that mechanic was in either Injustice 2 or Mortal Kombat 11. The game requires very intense focus when pulling off combos, and with nearly every character in the game, if you can't augment a special move, then you may as well just quit the game because you won't be able to pull off those long extended combos, which is the point of the fighting system in these games. Not only that, but to make things worse, the wake-up options are a joke in this game. If you get knocked down, you're pretty much screwed, especially if you get knocked down into a corner. That's because the critical wake-up options that was in Mortal Kombat 11, such as the 2 different offensive wake-ups, which cost a unique meter as well as the roll mechanic, are gone. They have been removed, and they've been replaced with cameo wake-up attacks that are nowhere near as effective. This makes fighting aggressive players who are experienced with the game a complete chore. The only way to effectively wake up is to delay your wake up by holding down the shoulder button, or to meter burn either a special move or a cameo wake up, which will give you armor as you do so. But it doesn't always work, thanks to the frame data that Netherrealm screwed up. What's worse is that the extended combos in the game are a double-edged sword, meaning they're fun until they're not. Having extended combos in the game are great, but there needs to be a limit on them. There are players already that have found exploits that have allowed them to achieve a 20-hit combo or greater, meaning that they can effectively take out an opponent's entire health bar with minimal effort because certain characters have broken infinite combo potential, especially if they're paired with the right cameo character. This is the fault of Netherrealm and their blatant incompetence. A combo should not cost more than a third of an opponent's health bar. By having infinite combos, that allows players to essentially break the entire system, and fights where these things occur become entirely one-sided affairs. So yes, the fighting system has been greatly improved generally, but it's also been made worse in some critical areas. The second improvement really shouldn't count as an improvement at all, which is the scaling down of the overall grind that was in Mortal Kombat 11. The grind that was in MK11 was intense. It was egregious to the extreme, to the point where the game was pure frustration and anger-inducing. The grind has been toned down considerably in this game as it has removed tower requirements that were in the last game, and it allows the purchasing of character skins and gear using in-game currency, most of which has also been drastically toned down in the game itself from the returning store menu placed on the main menu itself. Now, that's really where the positives end and the negative points rear their ugly head. I don't know what it is about Netherrealm Studios, but it seems that this company goes out of their way to piss off their player base. Right now, the game just released, and early adopters are focusing on the positive elements, completely neglecting to recognize the elements that actually make Mortal Kombat 1 a worse game than Mortal Kombat 11 ever was. The first mistake Netherrealm made was with the direction and narrative. The story in Mortal Kombat 1 is some Hollywood superhero nonsense. The pitch of this story was kept simple. The universe ended in Mortal Kombat 11. Liu Kang became an Elder God and recreated the universe that spawned a new timeline in the process. We get new versions of existing characters. And at first, it was working. It was interesting to see revised versions of characters like Kenshi, Baraka, and Mileena, who all benefit from the new versions of their archetypes compared to what came before. It makes characters who weren't as strongly written before more appealing. Even the main narrative that Netherrealm introduced, this drama between Earthrealm and Outworld, was intriguing. At least it was until this moment.
You are the victim of deception, sorcerer.
You're not Damashi. You're me. More correctly, you are me. A poor facsimile, anyway. Made lesser by Liu Kang's meddling.
What's happening here? Who is he?
This Shang Tsung is whom I battled for the Hourglass. I thought him dead.
Once it's revealed that Shang Tsung from the former timeline won the fight against Kronika in another separate timeline, the game goes completely off the rails, and the quality plummets hard. And you would think that the writers would be wise enough to stop there. But no, they keep going, and it gets worse. Apparently there's a timeline for multiple characters, arguably the entire roster who fought against Kronika and won, which created multiple separate timelines, basically created a multiverse. This reveal was so stupid that I half expected Kang the Conqueror to show up. It's like the writers didn't know how to end the story, couldn't make up their mind as to where they wanted to go, so they instead chose to go with something asinine and ridiculous. The introduction of a multiverse destroys the first 2/3 of the story in this game. Nothing that happens matters, because the story you've been following is only one of probably thousands. This is made worse when they introduce Armageddon again and you encounter random versions of existing characters in the game. It's as if they somehow thought that this was clever. It's not. After you're done with the garbage story that caves in on itself, the only single-player content that you have left over in this game is Invasions mode. And the thing about Invasions mode is that it's fucking boring. What starts off as an interesting board game-like mode wears out its welcome rather quickly thanks to a complete lack of challenge from the AI, as well as useless items that you don't need with the talismans. You must navigate this long-ass map known as a mesa, of which there's 8 of them, with a seasonal boss at the end. Your view of the area is extremely narrow, and you can't move from a node until you've played the random fight, or random minigame, or random tower that consists of random fights and random minigames for that specific node. There is no map for any of these mesas, which are huge. And because there is numerous splitting paths within the mesas, you will find yourself blindly backtracking multiple times in order to find the correct path forward to the end of that stage. It's repetitive, it's boring, it's terrible. And they brought back the annoying modifiers from Mortal Kombat 11 for many of the matches in Invasions. The farther you go in the game, you start encountering AI that has armor, so you can only hit them at specific times. There's full screen status effects that prevent you from playing the game in a normal fashion. What the hell were they thinking? It's insulting to know that Netherrealm Studios intended for this mode to be the end-all be-all for the single-player content in this game, as Invasions is intended specifically to replace not one, but 2 entire gameplay modes from Mortal Kombat 11, those being Towers of Time and the Crypt. While both the Towers of Time and Crypt modes were especially awful modes in the last game, the fact here is that the amount of content that Mortal Kombat 11 had was plenty for single-player content. The problem with Mortal Kombat 11 wasn't in the amount of content it had, but in the execution of what it did offer. The problem with Mortal Kombat 1 is both in the execution and the amount of content it has. So despite the fact that the game technically has a better fighting system, what good is it if everything else is so below the bar? Like, what the hell am I supposed to do with a normal Towers mode aside from those achievement hunters out there? Sure, you have a tournament mode, which is only playable with another person locally. What about the Warrior Shrine in the online menu? Well, we don't know what it is yet, and considering how bad the online offerings are in this game, I wouldn't expect much of anything from this company at this point. Speaking of which, Netherrealm. Why the fuck would you bring back Combat League in this game? For what purpose does this shit garbage-ass gameplay mode exist? To this day, Combat League remains one of the worst modes I've experienced in any video game, across any genre, from any development studio or publisher. It's extremely suspect that Netherrealm did not mention the return of this mode not once the entire time during this game's marketing campaign. Not once in any trailer or interview with Ed Boon was Combat League mentioned prior to release. And not only did they bring this crap back, but they actually made it worse than what it was in the last game. Now instead of being forced to play a best 2 out of 3 matches, now with every player, you have to play a best 3 out of 5 matches, meaning you could be forced to play up to 5 matches with every player you encounter online. And it gets worse from there. Those useless garbage cosmetics, the character skins and gear rewards return, and they've locked some behind the Elder God rank. Why would you do that? Combat League is fucking terrible. It's just as bad in this game as it was in the last one, and now it's even more of a grind to simply play it in the first place. There's also no crossplay that's available from what I've noticed. Then, for completionists, if you want to get all of the achievements in this game, you need to level up 5 different cameo characters. Each character on the roster can rank up to level 35. Each cameo character can rank up to level 15. Okay, no problem. Except that Netherrealm made the progression purposely slow, so you would have to waste hours playing matches that you don't want to play. And that's just to upgrade one character. Playing Invasions barely gives you any experience for the cameos past a certain rank. And despite how long Invasions is, you can play an entire seasons of Invasions mode and still not have one cameo character ranked up to level 15, to the max. I should know, I've done it. And there are other players that have reported doing the same on sites like Reddit. So the game forces you to play either Hours of the Towers mode, of which there's no option to have the AI play the game for you like you had with both Injustice 2's Multiverse mode or Mortal Kombat 11's AI offerings, or you have to play Combat League to gain experience, and you have to win matches. If you lose matches, the game gives you a slither of experience. Even if you win matches, the game still barely gives you any experience to level up your characters. The grind is still there from Mortal Kombat 11, and it's still terrible. Oh, and did I mention that there's an achievement in the game that no one from the game's audience has gotten? Not a single person, and no one knows how to get it? Which is just another sign that Netherrealm Studios and WB Games rushed this shit out the market, which is something I've never heard of personally. Regardless, the final nail in the coffin for this mess is the egregious microtransaction store in the main menu. That contains randomized gear and skin items, similar to what was in Mortal Kombat 11. By the way, the gear in this game is a joke compared to the last game. The gear in Mortal Kombat 11 was already terrible, but it's made worse in this game due to the fact that each character only has one gear piece instead of 3 that Mortal Kombat 11 had. What's the point in even bringing this mechanic for customization back if you're just going to half-ass it? So that's Mortal Kombat 1. Another cheap vehicle from WB Games to monetize the game and rip off as many of their player base as they can. This is the same company that was forced to shelve one of their upcoming games for an entire year with a full delay for Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League because of the backlash and negative reception the gameplay reveal got months ago. It seems that this publisher and developer are intent on destroying every major franchise that's under their control. And as a result, it would be very unwise to purchase another WB Games or another Netherrealm Studios game in the future going forward. And perhaps instead of allowing your creative director, which is Ed Boon in this case, to go on random YouTube platforms eating chicken wings and pretending like everything is good with this franchise, instead of hiring Hollywood celebrities who don't know how to act to portray one of the characters in these games, instead of releasing broken ports on systems that are less powerful than the standard, perhaps it would be best if Netherrealm Studios and WB Games actually focus on releasing a good product next time around.